So when we speak about sustainability, we often we have mentioned like solar panels and recycling and those things. Uh, but also important, very important part in this sustainability is also you as an individual and taking care of also not just like planet or our surroundings, our environment, but also taking care of ourselves because we will also mention some things like ecological anxiety and so on, so which can lead you to your kind of like not or it can affect your mental well-being, and it's very important when you want to kind of improve conditions of others. You have to also, on the first place, you have to prioritize also your own kind of well-being in order to be able to continue working for the benefits of it of others. This, like, you can imagine like when you, if you were in a airplane and there are like oxygen mask, and they always, when they are giving instructions, they will tell you that when you want to save someone and some kind of emergency is happening, some kind of disaster, you should first put mask on yourself and then you can put mask on people that need that, because of course if you start just putting mask on those other people or those who need it, uh, and you don't put on yourself, you can end up in a very bad situation. So you can lose consciousness. So if you think about this kind of analogy, you can also think that about how important it is to take care of your own health, whether like mentally or physically. So if we talk about like this eco anxiety, maybe you came across this term, maybe not. It is something like fear of grief or helplessness in response to environmental distraction. It is common, especially among young and very well informed individuals, because when you are really well informed about what is happening around us, the kind of like environmental distraction around us, you can start to feel like really like anxiety. You can also like really like this climate change can trigger kind of like guilt, anger, fatigue and frustration, so you can start to feel really like guilty that uh, your daily habits are kind of contributing to this. But of course you can, to some extent, and as we were speaking, you can change them. But of course, you can start to feel also anger to other people or kind of authorities, government, like let's say why they are not stopping this, why they are not doing enough to help to prevent this climate change, for instance, and this kind of negative environmental impact. You can also start to feel like fatigue and frustration, let's say even when you are really trying to improve your lifestyle, but you can in your daily life like you can come across some things that are making like some kind of obstacles that making it difficult to kind of achieve all your goals, or you may start to feel like whatever you are doing, it will never be kind of enough. uh, it is like really important to focus on this self-care and to kind of distinguish it from selfishness. So you, it's like this saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So as I said, like you have to kind of take care of yourself in order to be able to give to others, to help to others. uh, uh, and this kind of like also you have to be aware of kind of activism burnout, and focus on various ways of regeneration. So it's really important to be aware, like also that how much time you will dedicate to activism, like how you will compensate, how you will kind of regenerate from that, because of course you can get very passionate about some topics, but then you start to feel very uh, after some time you can start to feel like really tired and frustrated. So you can start to like when you are like to reflect about what makes you like anxious, about what on the other hand makes you like very happy and proud and satisfied, and in relation to this kind of sustainability issues and activities related to it. uh, you can, of course, it's good to share it with others, with your peers uh, about this, to speak about these things. uh, so it's like this idea, of course, there can be this anxiety can stem from this, that no solution is perfect, and whatever you are doing, it will never be kind of good enough. And but you have to really like focus on that no solution is perfect, as we were speaking in previous parts of the course. Like the sustainability issues are extremely complex, and it's okay if you just contribute, but it's not fully perfect solution. So uh, that is the trap, what is called like perfection paralysis, when you kind of get paralyzed, that you are feeling like you cannot do everything right, and therefore it prevents you from doing like even small things that can improve it. So like it will lead you like to really like doing nothing, because you think that uh, you cannot do everything right. So this perfection trap has problem really, like that there is this all or nothing thinking. And as we said also in the previous parts of the course, when we were dealing for instance with logical fallacies and so on, this is not really like a reasonable approach. So let's say if you would like look at it like from the point of view of reducing waste, and you will think that okay, if I can't make like here really like zero waste, why should I even try to do something? So also you can feel kind of like guilt over a carbon footprint, despite having like good intentions and despite making some progress, but you still will feel like that there is like still many ways to that you can improve. uh, so you have to maybe focus more on that incremental change is more sustainable than radical overhaul. Behavioral science supports the power of small habits. So it's really like maybe to focus on small kind of victories, small wins during your uh, daily activities, and not to try to fix everything at once. And also, it's important to focus on this kind of like concept of acceptance and resilience. So, accepting that systems are imperfect and working within them is part of real world sustainability. So, also to try to focus on influence and not control. So, try to really like to, as I said, like to see that these small wins, like to see that you can make some impact, you can make some difference, you can influence, let's say, this policy making, decision making, but even if you don't have like your full control, like let's say you want to speak with some politicians, and you have to count with that it will not be like that they will really accept 100% everything what you want, but it's good to really focus on, at least on some small steps. So you can be like mm, focus on really like this daily like habits which are, even if they are imperfect, like really like to kind of uh, celebrate that you made some kind of progress. So it is important really to also take care of our health, like not just this mental health, where you like, let's say, there are these like various ways of this journaling, like this gratitude journal, or you probably know or came across that, and that's like also you can kind of modify it to this kind of sustainability issues, and to kind of make to focus on your mind on those positive aspects. Uh, Also, this problem of health, like this, not just mental and physical, it is also like whether we should really distinguish between mental and physical when practically the body is functioning all together. But and it's like of course influencing everything, like your body mind, it's not really like doesn't seem to be really like uh, utterly separate. So so our health is deeply connected to environmental health. So uh, clean air, safe food, unpolluted water, these are both environmental and personal health issues. So uh, there is like really like connection between our health and the health of the planet or our environment. So if the air around us is not clean, it has not has just a negative impact not only on the nature, this kind of non-human nature, but also on us as a humans. Like of course it impacts our lungs, our systems of our body. So uh, there are also like these relations between like eating more plants, which will on one hand also lower carbon footprint, but you can get also less heart disease, or let's say some kind of like diseases related really like to eating meat products, like let's say gout or gallbladder stones and so on. uh, Also walking, biking instead of driving, it also on one hand reduces emissions, but also boosts our fitness. It's also important, and also for our important for our brain, like to walk every day, and to for of course our heart and muscles and everything. So that is very, very important, this link. Then spending time in nature, it also improves our immunity, and also it's good for our stress. But also we can, when we are spending, let's say, more time in nature, in some kind of, let's say, forest, we also create more bond with that ecosystem, and we care more. We will not pollute it. We will take care of the animals there uh, in a way that we will not put there, let's say, some hazardous waste and so on, or cut that forest for no really like valid and very important reason. So also it's important this nature for our mental health, of course, that we there is this concept of this biophilia, that we need kind of like plants, let's say, around us and so on. So you can think about daily actions, how you during like your last few days, like you were, how your actions were contributing to also your health, but also health of the planet. It's also important that to understand that when we are taking care of our health, uh, we reduce that, for instance, consuming, let's say, some medicines and so on, that are not really necessary, because sometimes you really like you have genetic predisposition or something. But you kind of, when you are neglecting your health, you can it can lead you to consuming more uh, pharmaceuticals, and that can also, of course, it's kind of like also harming the nature, like, because it's the process of manufacturing, and also then the process of like how it can pollute and so on, and impact on the uh, environment. So there can be like various ways of self care, or like let's say this kind of mindfulness or journaling. Uh, then using these environmentally friendly products, uh, also managing this kind of digital overload, like spending time, only reasonable time on in front of the screen, because it can of course impact our hormonal system, our sleep, and so on, and that then leads to our also mental fatigue, and also like impacts our, let's say, cardiovascular health and so on. Also when we exercise, it helps also our brain, it helps our coordination, we are feeling stronger, our immune system can get stronger. So it's very important to be aware of this risk of burnout. So burnout is not a badge or like honor, but it's very like I remember also when I was younger at school, it was very much like telling they were telling us that you have to work really hard, uh, you have to really like focus on exceeding the limits and so on, and also like your kind of role models were people that were not sleeping enough, and they were like working more than 8 hours a day, and so on. So now we know that it's not really efficient, and in the long term it is causing really like you can be like damaging to your health. So it's really important to find the balance between your physical health, between the productivity and rest. There is also this important idea of resilience. So uh, you should aim to be like a resilient sustainability advocate, focusing on your emotional intelligence, on setting boundaries to prevent burnout, like to be able to say no to things, and so on. Like also I myself, I many times I get very excited about many projects, but I have to really focus on as much as you plan, let's say, the work, the activities, you should plan also the time for regeneration, for rest, and for exercise, for time with other people. And it's important to focus on consistency over intensity. So you should focus on how your calm, hopeful attitude can inspire more change than fear tactics. You can focus on really like community that support each other. Then there is this idea of environmental footprint, which is very helpful in kind of calculating your impact on planet. Let's say you can calculate or estimate your individual footprint, and it carries this kind of negative connotation. But this can mean some people lead really like those who are really taking it seriously and taking it very like responsibly. It can lead to feeling like guilty, shame, or anxiety. So they can get really like overwhelmed with some kind of impact. Therefore, there is also this kind of positive concept, which is like environmental handprint. That was like developed this handprint like a constructive counterpart to footprint. While a footprint measures harmful impact, handprint focuses on positive actions you take to improve environmental and social outcomes. So this is like from kind of shifting the perspective from the kind of question how much damage I am causing to how much good I am producing. So it can be helpful because it promotes kind of agency, hope, and motivation rather than guilt and paralysis. Uh, it is it can be useful in educational context and environmental virtue ethics, where fostering sustainable character and habits are key. So, for instance, Dominika Dzwonkowska recently published a book on environmental virtue ethics under Routledge Publishing House, and you can find it open access online. And there are also these ideas about this kind of environmental headprint, and but mostly about this environmental virtue ethics. So, if we compare this environmental footprint and environmental handprint, so environmental footprint measures negative impact on the environment, while environmental handprint measures positive contributions to sustainability. Uh, the environmental footprint is focusing on what we are doing wrong, whether the environmental handprint is focusing on what we are doing right. So, uh, regarding this emotional effect, it can trigger guilt, shame, or anxiety, this environmental footprint. But this environmental handprint can encourage hope, agency, and motivation. So, environmental footprint can be more related maybe to duty, ethics, and um, or to utilitarianism, but these virtue ethics are maybe more focused on environmental headprint, handprint. And regarding this environmental footprint and headprint, like how we would like kind of measure, In environmental footprint, we can focus on CO emissions, water usage, plastic waste, land use. But in environmental handprint, we focus on renewable energy use, reforestation, education, community action. So, as I said, this environmental footprint can lead to paralysis regarding these actions or avoidance, and environmental headprint fosters proactive constructive behavior. So also when you are kind of trying to persuade someone to be more sustainable, you can really on some people it may work maybe better to focus on environmental handprint or even try to kind of combine them. In education, it is mostly emphasize these handprint concepts. So the kind of like motivation is really like to reduce your footprint and increase your handprint. So that's the idea. So I hope this was useful for you to deal with this, also these health aspects of sustainability.